Basic firewall types. There are three basic types of firewalls: packet filter, proxy server, and application layer. The first generation firewall, the packet filter, is essentially a router that has been programmed to filter out certain IP addresses or TCP port numbers. These types of routers perform a static examination of the IP address and TCP port, then either deny a transaction or allow it to pass to the bases of information stored in their tables. These types of routers are relatively simple in design. Also, they act very quickly, but they are a little too simple to provide higher level of security. For example, it's relatively easy for an external user bent on causing internal network problems to spoof a static packet filter and to thinking he or she is a friendly agent. Routers and firewalls have become increasingly intelligent over years, and modern models can even follow the flow of conversation between an internal entity and an external entity. This capability allows modern routers to detect spoofing. Modern routers are beginning to scan for viruses and on incoming transactions. Proxy servers is a more complex firewall device. Proxy server is a computer running proxy server software whose function is much like that of a librarian who controls book access to books in library rare books room. To keep costly books from getting damaged by vandalism or careless handling, many librarians do not allow patrons to enter their rare rooms. Instead, do not allow patrons to enter their rare book room. Instead, the patron fills out an information request slip and hands it to the librarian. The librarian enters the rare room and receives the requested volume. The librarian then photocopies the requested information from the book and gives the photocopies to the patrons. Thus, the patrons never comes in contact with the actual rare book. Similarly, a transaction making a request to the company's proxy server firewall never comes into contact with the company's network. An external transaction that requests something from the corporate network must first approach the proxy server. The proxy server creates an application called a proxy that goes into the corporate network to retrieve the requested information. Because all external transactions must go through the proxy server, it provides a very good way to create an audit log. Proxy servers can create logs. Okay. A proxy server that supports FTP requests provides a realistic example. Recall from chapter 10 that FTP uses two network connections. One is for control information and one for transferring data. When an FTP request comes in, the FTP proxy examines the control connection. At the application layer, decide which commands are allowed or denied, then logs the individual commands. Okay. Proxy server sitting outside the protection of the corporate network. The most recent form of firewall is the application layer firewall. This firewall inspects all packets coming coming into or leaving a connection using application layer of the TCP/IP suite. In other words, application layer firewall gives beyond IP addresses and TCP/IP ports and inspect each packet to see if it belongs to an application. This added benefit, digging deeper into the packet, increases the processing time of an application layer firewall. It's quite common in today's market to find firewalls that operate as both packet filter and application layer filters. So we have three types. It's the packet filter, the older one, the proxy server, just like the ISAP server, and the application layer, and we can see that a lot. Wireless security. The first security protocol for wireless LAN was WEP, WEP. Although WEP was a step in the right direction, it suffered from two serious drawbacks. First, WEP used weak encryption keys that were only 40-bit in length. Second, the keys were static, not dynamic. Fortunately, WEP has been replaced by WPA, Wi-Fi Protection Access. WPA keeps 40-bit size encryption keys of WEP, but has one significant improvement: the inclusion of a temporal key integrity TKIP and IEEE 802.1x features, which together provide dynamic key encryption and mutual authentication for wireless clients. Thus, although the 40-bit key is still not very powerful, the keys are now being dynamically assigned, and the wireless client must prove they are legitimate users before they can connect. In any case, WPA was a temporary standard, and that was used until more powerful security standards was approved and implemented, which is the IEEE 802.11i, also called WPA2, addresses both weaknesses of WEP or WP and allowing keys and algorithms encryption algorithm negotiation to be dynamically assigned, and by adopting AES encryption based on Reindahl algorithm with 128, 192, or 256 bit keys, I802.11i is based upon WPA and the Robust Security Network (RSN) software that performs a robust negotiation of the encryption and authentication algorithms used between access point and wireless agents. Security policy design issues. One, a company is designing, and we have lots of issues. All right. Network security, making wireless LAN secure. And we're talking about applying what we learned, okay? And the chapter summary, which is really fruitful chapter. And the key terms, review questions, more review questions and exercises now. More exercises and thinking out of the box exercises. More thinking outside the box and hands-on projects. Now we reach chapter 13.